Welcome to the Mom and podcast. We're your hosts, Suzanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together. Welcome to the Mom and podcast. I'm Suzanne Kearns, a mom and writer, LGBTQ and sex ed advocate. And today, Irma Bombeck Writers Workshop rescheduler. We just got the email that it has been moved from March to October. I'm doing
Thank you, Omicron.
I know, but it's better to be safe than sorry. But man,
Yes.
I'm very sorry that
Bummer.
that got moved. I was looking forward to it.
Me too. And I am Missy Stevens, mom and writer, foster care advocate. And this week I'm a home organizer, a novice home organizer doing a massive reorg. So if you come in my house, stuff is everywhere.
That's what my little podcast studio looks like right now. But today we are so excited to have Jill Smokeler on the show. Even if you don't know her by her name, Jill, you definitely know her as the Scary Mommy. Scary Mommy started as an online baby book in early 2008 to chronicle Jill's stay-at-home days with her children and quickly transformed into a community of 1 million plus, I'm sure millions and millions by now, parents across the world, becoming the #1 parenting brand in the country. In 2015, the site was acquired by Some Spider LLC, where Jill remained in the role of Chief Content Officer for 3 more years, during which time Forbes magazine named her as a top 10 parenting influencer. Jill is also the New York Times bestselling author of Confessions of a Scary Mommy, which is featured behind me here if you're watching on YouTube, and Motherhood Comes Naturally and Other Vicious Lies. You may have also seen her on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Nightline, and all kinds of other places. So welcome, Jill. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's so good to be here with you guys.
We're really excited to talk about what's coming up, all your new stuff. But for the handful of people who may not be familiar with who you are, can you give us just a tiny Jill 101 and talk about who you are, what you do?
Sure. I loved Suzanne's intro, so I don't have all that much to add to it, but
Perfect.
Scary Mommy, which is what I'm certainly best known for, really just started as a hobby on a whim at home. And I quickly fell in love with the blogging world and the community and just immersed myself in it and grew it from there. And it just happened pretty organically at the beginning, just through the good old fashioned way of commenting on blog posts and blog hopping and, visiting other women and hearing about their stories. And that's really how it started and what I loved most about it. And really at its core, that's what it was.
The community. And so, a lot has changed since then. Just even the way that parenting bloggers interact anymore. I mean, it's not the blog hopping anymore.
No, I kind of miss the blog hop.
I miss the blog hop. I miss the blog rolls.
Yes. Oh, blog roll.
I mean, you were the OG. Yeah, you were the OG. And it's just so the blogging world has changed a lot. And your life stage and the age of your kids, has changed a lot since you originally started. And so really curious as, we've been talking about midlife a lot. In fact, we just wrapped off recording with Jen Mann, who's going to be the episode the week before you. And, we've been talking a lot about midlife and
it's us.
That was the point of her book. But just really curious how hitting this new stage in life, your kids' new stages in life, how that's impacting you, the way you're thinking about your next act, and the boundaries that you're establishing around, maybe what you're sharing and not sharing. How's that looking for you?
It's definitely a whole new ball game. I always felt like Scary Mommy had a shelf life given the name, that I wasn't going to be a mommy forever. And it definitely, when my kids hit like 9, 10, like adolescence age, it started to feel like, okay, I'm not really exactly this role anymore. And it's changing somehow. And I haven't been called mommy in years now. And it definitely, my kids are all teenagers now. It's so different than it was. I haven't written about them in years and years, primarily because they're living their own lives now. It's not their problem. When they were little, their problems were so universal and everybody could identify with them and they weren't personal. And the older they get, the more personal their issues are, and they're not yours to share anymore, which opens up a whole box of, what do you write about then?
Yes.
Who are you? Who am I now? What stories do I have to tell? What do I want to communicate? And I don't really exactly have answers for all of that. I'm sort of muddling through it and trying to figure out how much I want to talk about and what I'm comfortable with. It is nice to be past the stage of worrying that they're going to read what I wrote someday and be outraged by the language. Because that was a concern about mine early on, was they would be like, oh my God, mommy swears. And that's the least of what mommy does. They are totally, on board with that.
Yes.
So, but it's the other stuff that I'm a little more concerned about. Yeah. So it's definitely a work in progress.
I know. It always used to be like, I don't want my mom to read this. And now it's like, I don't want my kids to read this. It's like,
I don't want anyone I know to read anything. If I could guarantee that like none of my inner circle would read anything, I would actually write so much more. It's the people I know who I don't want to read things.
I know. That is
a huge piece for a lot of us. I think that, and Jen Mann talked about that in her book, and we talked about it a little bit in the interview, that when you get really vulnerable and you are being honest, it's great for you. It's very cathartic, but then there's this fear of alienating the people you love and hurting them. And that's not the purpose. So you have to figure out how to do that.
And if you're really lucky, you learn that from experience. I definitely did in my early days.
Yes. Oh, yes. And definitely those boundaries as far as, protecting your kids and kind of protecting yourself in the same vein. But so are you having some thoughts around what your next stage is going to be? As far as I know, you had talked about doing your own podcast.
Yeah.
We need to hear from you.
Yeah, I miss it. So I left Scary Mommy pretty abruptly. And I woke up the next morning and it felt really good when I left initially, because at that time I'd really become nothing but a pain in their asses. I just argued with every decision they were making, and there were too many ads on the site, and the user experience was not what I wanted it to be, and the content was not what I, foresaw it being, and all that stuff. And I left, and it felt really good at that moment. And then I woke up the next day and I was like, what do I do now? I have no idea, because I'd gotten to the point where really my closest friends were all working for the site in some capacity. My entire day was structured around it. My entire life was structured around this website and this company. And then it was just poof, gone. Wow. And that was really, really hard. So I finally, after like 2.5 years of really just being in a funk and not thinking I'd ever want to put my voice out there again, have finally in the last like 3 months thought, okay, I can see myself talking again. Finally, I feel like I finally have something to say, and I can finally reflect on the last 4 years and really 10 years. So yes, podcast is definitely what I am thinking. I think you guys were right on the ball. Because that's the part of it that I miss, is the connecting with people. And I feel like this is even a more intimate way than what blogging used to be. There's something about when somebody's in your ear and you're listening to them, that it's like, just feels like they're talking to you. It's so personal. Much more so than reading, I find. So I'm excited to try it. Who knows? I'm trying to go into it with very low expectations. So hopefully I will be nothing but pleasantly surprised with however it turns out. Well, it seems like a good way to go into things.
If our experience is any indication, I mean, it has just been so much fun. It's a big learning experience, but just the conversations that we get to have. I mean, we said, even if no one ever listens to it, the fact that we get to sit down once a week and talk with these amazing people and learn so much, it's wonderful. I love it. And I don't want to say it's easier than writing, but it's, there's less expectation of every sentence being, having the exact perfect word.
Oh, it's so much easier. You can't think about it.
Yes.
Right. It is definitely, it's currently my obsession is just listening to as many different voices as I can in all the different formats. And it's a whole world that's fun to get wrapped up in. And I'm excited to be on the other end.
So are you more in the research phase right now? You've already got the equipment. Like what? So how
I
far are you
do.
along?
I had a short-lived podcast a couple of years ago with a girlfriend of mine. So we got all the equipment and we were like, we are going to do this. It was about sex and dating. And we had and it was really funny. And we did like 10 episodes and we loved it. But then the pandemic hit and we're like, we're not having sex and we're not dating. There's nothing to talk about on this podcast anymore at all. So it sort of trickled out. But yes, because of that, I do have all the equipment. I put something in a Facebook group I have where you saw it, Suzanne, just that I was thinking about starting a podcast, and I had a couple of people reach out to me who had connections at production companies. So I'm just having some phone calls and trying to figure out, because in terms of logistics, that is the part that I fear the most, is like actually getting 3 people on. I mean, I'm like in awe that we're all, I can see your faces and we're actually recording. Like I have no idea how that happens or how to do that.
It's magic.
I know it really is. I merged a phone call the other day on my iPhone and I was like, can I get some credit, people? Like you weren't on the phone and I just made us all be on the phone together. Like,
I've never accomplished that. I have one friend who is skilled at that. She's tech support. I do not know how to do it.
No. I was so proud of myself.
I'm proud of you because I don't think I've ever done that. We can do a whole podcast, but I cannot get 2 people on a phone call together for sure.
I have to make sure never to mess up a single thing because it's the editing that I'm going to be like, how do I do
you
this?
need Suzanne. She's a genius.
Oh, okay. No.
Well, I might be reaching out to you.
I know we're moving on from Scary Mommy, but I want to talk a little bit about that confessional. And I think it was a really unique window into women. And with our podcast, what we're really trying to do is help women figure out who they are, who they want to be, who they are beyond the mommy. As you mentioned, we're all not going to be mommy. Most of us don't get called that anymore. Personally, I loved the confessional and I would go read it. And partly because it's great to hear someone else or read someone else going through what you are, and partly from a like rubbernecking. You're just like, oh my gosh.
It is a train wreck.
Yeah. Wow. I would sometimes read them to friends, be like, can you even believe this? But I loved it. But I think what was such a gift from it is that maybe you were able to see these universal common threads, that there are just some things that all women are struggling with on some level. And what do you think are the biggest hopes and fears? That's a huge question, but the biggest hopes and fears women face.
That's a big question. Yeah, the confessional, I started it really for 2 reasons. The first was because I noticed that people in the comment section of posts would be really authentic and thoughtful if they were anonymous. And if they were their name, it would just be like, I agree, or way to go. And I was like, okay, what if there was something with anonymity just being present all the time? And I just wanted a place to vent to my mother-in-law. I mean, that's really what I wanted. So the 2 combined really, really, it fit the bill for that. And I think in terms of what moms want, I think at the core, it's just wanting to do a good job and just are struggling with how to do that and how to do that while keeping ourselves sane, while staying afloat, while, keeping our careers intact or doing whatever we're doing and still managing to put motherhood first, which it needs to be, I guess, second to us or whatever. But, I think that's the big challenge. It definitely got a lot more intense than I predicted it being. When it first started and nobody was visiting, I went on like a bender and I just confessed like 25 things. And I was just like, I need to
entirely you.
Exactly. I was like, I need to get some confessions up. So it was like, I made my kids mac and cheese 3 nights last week. I gave them a bath once. I did this, I did that. And it was really nice when it started filling in with other people's confessions, because it was a little depressing when I just go through and it was like, oh, that was me. Yep. That was me too. Me too. So yeah, it became a really interesting glimpse at women and motherhood. And definitely a lot of nights where I got at first, actually, this is a bit of a tangent, but it wasn't moderated. It's moderated and it has been for some time now. But when it first went up, it wasn't. And so I would get in these live situations with scammers who were like leaving, just like profane, ridiculous, inappropriate confessions. And I'd see them in live time. So I'd be deleting them and they'd be like, I see you deleting me. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, no.
Going back and forth in the confessional at like 2 a.m. because I was like, I can't leave these for everybody to see, but it needs to come down and I can't go to sleep because I'm the only one doing this.
Oh my God. I'm going to have nightmares tonight now. That is like, that's so
it was a love-hate. I definitely had a love-hate relationship with that.
That's a big thing to take on.
Yeah,
it was. And then we had some serious stuff confessed and we were like,
what do you do with that?
Yeah, exactly. What do we do with this? And we had to find out what you do with that, which is report it to the authorities and then let them take it from there. But yeah, it was definitely more than I bargained for. But is still, when I occasionally go onto the site, it's still there. They're still featuring it very prominently. So I think it's here to stay.
I think women need to get some stuff off their chest, but
we all have mothers-in-law.
I love you, Donna. I'm not talking about you.
It is just a safe way to just, and then sometimes all you need is to get that out and then you can move on with your life.
And once you get it off your chest and then reading the other people's also, I mean, that's what feels so good is when you feel like you're confessing something that is just outrageous and inappropriate, whatever. And then you read the next one, you're like, okay, that really put that in perspective. Exactly. I'm not doing so bad.
Yes. What is it? Schnordenfreude or whatever. There's a little bit of that, but there's just a little bit of the I'm not aloneness, which I think in your writing you've captured in the writers that you have highlighted and supported, on the site, just really capturing that you're not alone in that community. Even if you feel alone, even if you're stuck in the house with a newborn, there's so many more of us out there.
Totally. That's before the Me Too movement. That's what I always said I was trying to go after was the, oh my God, Me Too. Just that moment that you're like pulling your hair out and you're like, how am I supposed to do all of this? That there's just an army of other people like you who are wondering the same thing.
Yeah, which we're really finding with not just motherhood, but with trying to figure out this mom and ... Like in the end, we're not alone in wondering what do we do next and how do we achieve these big ideas that we have. We're not the only ones trying to figure it out.
Maybe that's the secret is it never ends.
It never freaking ends.
I don't think it does. And the more we interview these coaches, the more that I feel like even they realize that, I mean, everybody's a work in progress. But but the one thing that has been kind of universal and I think really interesting, I'm trying to incorporate this more and more to my life, is that it all comes down to knowing your core values and really knowing yourself and knowing what you like. I mean, that was a big thing. Episode number 1, when Missy and I were talking, we're like, Missy had a coach, or was it a therapist who had asked her, what are things that you like? And she's like, I don't even know. Like, I've been so busy trying to figure out what my kids like or, what makes them happy or what they're talented at that, heck, I haven't thought about any of those points, how they apply to me. So,
oh my God, like a hobby? Are we supposed to have hobbies?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, is that something
at that time I was like, I don't know. It wasn't like I didn't do things for myself, but that I was all sort of reactive.
Yeah. No, you never sat down and be like, hey, do I really want to do this?
What do I value? What do I like? Yeah, no clue.
It's funny. I had been working with a therapist and a life coach actually, and they both started out with very innocent questions. Like what are your passions? What do you like to do for fun? And it all came down to being creative in some capacity that I just need to be creating something. And whenever I lose that, I flounder completely, whether it's like a party favor for a party or tinkering in my little backyard Zen garden that I made, or trying to do something like the podcast, just something to focus on. Because without having a purpose like that, then I just find myself sort of drowning more and more.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the past 2.5 years where you've kind of been in this break of figuring out what you want to do. Has that been a big part of that, working with that coach? Has that been a conscious effort that you've been making, or just kind of giving yourself a well-deserved break to just kind of like let things settle?
It was not an intentional break. I gave myself 3 months off. That was how much time I allotted myself. And somehow, I don't know, somehow it just really got elasticized along the way.
Because that's what you needed.
It is. And my divorce is still not final. We're at the tail end of that, I pray. So it just feels like everything is kind of almost there, but not quite ready yet. Which I'm really antsy for things to move along already. And I just lost track of your question entirely.
Oh, just this idea of these past 2.5 years that you've taken off.
Oh yeah, that's why, because I've blocked them out. That's why I lost track of the question. Like, what 2.5 years? It hasn't been 2.5 years. Not at all. Yeah, I started. So I right before COVID hit, I was finally, and yes, the answer is yes. Anne Immig is actually I'm using her for a life coach.
Oh, you are.
We had her
on.
So I love her. So that's relatively new. My therapist and group therapy and all of that I've been doing for the long haul, and that is helpful. I feel like I've become a little bit of a therapy nut, like just thinking in these little terms that I've drilled into my head about like enjoying the simple things and capturing the moment, and just all of these things my head is constantly filled with. But I think it needs to be, because before I didn't have that voice, it was just negative voices. So yes, the therapy voice in my head is not a bad voice.
Yeah,
no, it's good to have that.
Yes, we've talked about getting rid of. We've talked about the mean little voice and ways to get rid of it. And
I went to a therapist who made me sit in a corner. She made me go to one corner and be myself, and go to the other corner, and I had to like run back and forth and be the negative Jill to the vulnerable Jill, and then I had to like react like that and just be as like mean to myself as I internally can be. And it was an interesting exercise. But finally, I was like, couldn't I do this without playing musical chairs? Like, I'm exhausted.
Can I just sit still, please?
Like, I get it. I get where you're going with this, but
I'm
like,
very
I had a
tired.
Cup of coffee. Exactly. Like, I just want to sit. Isn't that the point? Or like lie down? Like, I've seen that on TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, not so much.
Oh, I see you with your gritty there, Missy.
Yeah. This is my inner critic. Suzanne sent her to me. And,
oh my goodness.
Like this.
I love it. Oh my God. I love it.
But I had said I always picture my inner critic like the Philadelphia Phillies mascot, Gritty. For some reason, that's what my inner critic looks like. So Suzanne was looking for a little orange.
That is so funny. That is certainly one of the most unattractive stuffed animals I've ever seen.
Right? Right? Especially this.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I keep
That's actually
here.
Amazing. Yeah. You need to like have a link for that somewhere in the show notes, because that is seriously like the best Muppet-like creature I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
I just Googled like I wanted to look like plush, gritty, like what was it? And that thing came up and I was like, oh my God. Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, you can't get more than that. You hit the nail on the head.
Oh my gosh. So we've been talking a lot about, your past couple of years, but I love that you're working with Anne Immig, because we actually had her on, and she was one of our guests.
Shout out Anne.
And Anne does the positive psychology, which I just love. I had never heard of that approach before, and we had by the time we interviewed her, we had interviewed dozens and dozens of coaches, never heard of it before. And I just love that. And we'll link back to that episode for anybody who wants to dive into a little bit more of what that means. But
I just love her energy and her, just like when I see her face, I just feel better. Yeah. And she's definitely trying to help me prioritize and just stay on a schedule. Like that's not having structure has been my biggest challenge. It's like a whole day can go by and I'm like, what? I did nothing. Like, where did the day go? And then there are days where I accomplished a ton, and it's hard to believe that it's the same allotted hours, because like I can spend so much time just floundering and doing absolutely nothing. And that's what I really need help with, is just figuring out how to find a happy medium between the two. Because when I'm driven and accomplishing, then I'm just 100 miles an hour all the way. But it's like that, or I just want to lay in bed all day. It's just kind of finding like a little balance would be nice.
Yeah. I think Missy and I both have a lot of that in us too. We're kind of an all or nothing go.
Yeah.
We go with the flow. And if the flow's really fast, we're really fast.
Yeah.
And if
it's really hard to self-motivate and self-propel. I think that's one of the lessons I learned over the last couple of years is I can't do it alone, and I can't expect myself to do it alone. And I need to be proactive about pulling the people in who are going to help me, get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something that we've learned in doing this, is that motivation piece is a myth. it's
It
not
really
because you're
is.
not motivated. It's
Mhm.
because there's a lot of other external stuff and some internal things you're telling yourself all coming together. And I mean, truly, sometimes I think you do need to stay in bed. I'm
Well,
not
yes.
discounting
Missy,
a
I
good
spend a
rest.
great deal of time in bed. I love my bed so much.
I love me too. And I think there's a lot to be said for it. In fact, I texted Suzanne from bed this morning. I'm like, I've been up, but now I'm back in bed working. That's just where I
Yes.
wanted to be.
My kids are all doing homeschooling in their beds. Like, we are a very bed oriented
Yeah.
family.
Oh,
For
Yeah.
sure.
oh
But
my
then
gosh.
it does get in your head. And you're like, am I just not motivated? Is that the reason
Yeah.
I'm huddled under the covers again? That's not it. That's not it.
No. And I think that was something else from the blogging community, is just, knowing that there were people out there, dealing with the same thing. And that's what I need to remind myself, even without that community now, that even if we're not all writing on blog rolls and all that, that we still are trudging through it together in some way.
If anybody can build a community and have those helpful
Yeah.
women around you, I mean, that is your superpower as far as your team that you had at Scary Mommy. I mean, it really does seem like a family as far
Yeah.
as the amount of love and respect that y'all have for each other and this wonderful
Mhm.
community. I and the community of readers. I mean, so it's
Mhm.
just all around. And did you ever have like a mentor or this woman in your life? Like, where did this idea of community and women helping women
Yeah.
play a role for you? Or is that just something that you just naturally blossomed out of you and everybody else got to benefit from it? Or was it someone who did that for you along the way?
And now it's funny. I never really had a mentor, anyone who like took me by the hand and really guided me. And I also never really I'm not a group person at all. I'm like a huge recluse and loner and like don't thrive in group situations in the least. But I don't know, somehow I think I just from the get-go was just 100% myself. And I think people reacted to that. I think there weren't a ton of people at that time who were being very open about the experience of raising kids. And I don't know. I think a lot of it was luck. And I think I had great writers who brought in more great writers who just kept bringing in all of these voices and supportive, just, it was amazing. But when I think about like, what did I actually do? I don't know. I feel like it was sort of a magic that took over. I feel like I facilitated it and I had the platform, but like what happened wasn't because of me. I think it was just sort of the energy that everybody had at the moment, that it was a place where we could just sort of express ourselves and, get together and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I
Right
think
place, right time.
yeah, right place, right
Exactly,
time,
for
but
sure.
also you had the starting energy for it. So I think the people you brought in mirrored that energy and
For
brought
sure.
that same
I think it's
level
because
of
I was
respect.
well, thank you. I think I was so desperate for it in my personal life. I had just moved. I was in this really conservative neighborhood that I really stuck out like a sore thumb. It was horrible. One of the first stories I wrote about in one of the books was the mother across the street came over when my little one was an infant. And she's like, how's it going? How's life? I said, it's all right. The baby's an asshole, but other than that, things are fine. And she looked so aghast and was like so offended and horrified. And this was a woman who was in her 50s. She had 4 kids. Like, she knew what it was like raising kids.
Yes.
And I was like, God,
You're
these
assholes
are so
sometimes.
exactly. I was like, these are not my people, and I need people who are my people.
Yes.
So I think that's why I was so desperate to pull together people who seemed to be on the same page as I was.
And you know what? I wish I never even knew about blogging or this whole world of mommy blogging or whatever up until 6 years ago? When
right?
Oh, really?
5 or
That's
6
right.
years ago, when I very first started my blog, and that was even not about parenting. That was about going back to work. The dusty parachute was going to be about highlighting my going back to work. See how well that went.
Hey, here we are.
Hey,
Here
it
we
went
are.
great. Exactly.
Yeah. And no, I actually had some jobs kind of contracting and stuff in between there. But yeah, I didn't know it existed. And so I was alone. And I do remember like you would have one thing a week that you were brave enough to go out and do and bring the baby to. And then if the baby had a blowout or if something went wrong, like that was I would just sit in the parking lot and weep because I was like, that was my one shot to see another human. And now it's over until next week. And it's just like, and you do, it's very isolating. And,
it is very isolating.
And so I do think those online communities, like, there was a desperation. There is a desperation. It's not that phenomenon has gone away. Somewhere out there is still a mom who that is in a parking lot right now crying because her baby had a blowout and she couldn't go to the baby massage class or whatever it was.
And she's wearing a mask on her face. So, another mother's probably not going up to her and saying, oh my God, me too. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I feel for the generation of moms who are raising babies right now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's isolation to an extreme level.
Horrible. Yeah. So I hope they're getting the support that they need somehow.
Yeah. And it's not just the normal, like, don't touch my baby, go wash your hands or whatever. It's like, no, put
my God.
Full
stay 1 2 feet away. Exactly. One of my best friends has a 2-year-old and I've never held her and it kills me. It's so sad. This last 2 years has been interesting for sure.
And it blows my mind that we're talking about babies that are 2 that they didn't exist before the pandemic,
right?
Like this. These are
it's a whole generation.
Children.
They are COVID babies. Yeah.
Yes.
It's wild.
It is. We're dealing with our COVID teenagers, like literally on the way to school. My daughter's reading her text and she's like, oh, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go because my physics teacher is out. So I guess I go to the classroom and if there's a sub, I stay there, but if not, I guess I go to the library. I guess I go whatever. And yet there's entire schools now where the kids are basically just sitting there in the library, not doing any classes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I got suckered into keeping my kids home all week for that reason. Because they were like, 70% of our teachers are gone. Half the class is gone. So we sit in these classrooms and watch movies or watch the teacher virtually, but she can't pay attention to anything. It's a mess. So we may as well be home.
Yeah.
At least you have a virtual option. Like if we stay home, we're screwed.
No, we have a virtual option and then I don't need to drive them or pack lunch.
I know. I am a big fan of that, but no.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
My
youngest, help with the dog.
My youngest gets his booster on Wednesday and I'm just like, please just hold out to Wednesday.
Yes.
That's why I have a hard stop today as we're going to get boosters. And I'm like, come on, let's get them. Please.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh my gosh. But okay. I think that's just a good reminder for all of us to give an extra big smile, I guess, behind a mask. Give a wave to that mom with the stroller. Say
don't
hello.
touch her. Don't touch her. Don't get too close.
Do not get within 6 feet. Just wave across the street. Say, I'm with you. Solidarity.
We should make up signs.
She's going to think you're psychotic, but do it anyway.
We need like a Katniss Everdeen sign for like a solidarity with all the baby moms out there.
I can't whistle though.
Yeah, me neither. But we need something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, eventually life will go back to normal. And we know you're going to, so you're looking at doing this podcast. We know your podcast that you were doing before was the sex and dating. Is it going to be sex and dating again? Are you back to sex and dating?
I would love to be having sex and to be dating, but alas, that is not the conversation I can have right now. No, this podcast she's got issues. So it's pretty all encompassing, all the different issues that I've been dealing with and stuff that I'm just going to tackle one by one and hopefully just intimate, one-on-one conversations about stuff that's close to my heart and then we'll see how it goes. But if anyone wants to hear about sex and relationships, it's Generation EX. So that is out there.
Okay.
Should anyone want to hear?
We will.
Now I kind of regret saying that.
Well, you know what? I think there is a place for a lack of sex and dating podcast as far as, because that's a conversation that needs to be had too.
Oh my God. You think I have stories about parenting, like the stories about sex and dating in your 40s?
Oh Lord.
I can't imagine.
I would write a book if it weren't so depressing. Really? Oh, it is so much more fun scrolling through your friends' dating apps than it is doing it for real. Yeah, it's not so fun. Yeah, but I do have lots of stories. Collecting them for something.
Yeah. I think there's a book there.
Yeah. Talk about a community of women who needs to know they're not alone. There's,
Yeah.
Seriously.
yeah, I think that
Yeah.
there would be a huge audience for that, especially during this time. But okay,
Well,
so
let's all pray for a day when Jill can do that again.
yay.
Yeah.
So now when does a new podcast launch? Like, what's your timeline?
When does it officially launch? I don't have I don't know.
You don't-
Whatever.
It's coming.
It's coming soon.
I said January, now it's February. Sometime whenever I can get the help to get it up is when it's going to get up. Right now I'm stuck on music, which is a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. Like finding some little like 3-note intro. I'm listening to like all of these stock music things. So I'll get there eventually, hopefully February, hopefully middle of February, you'll be able to listen to like 3 episodes. That's my goal.
So
Yay.
people want to follow along until then, so that they're ready when it comes out. Where's the best place for them to follow you these days?
From my bedroom to the kitchen. Probably.
That's the best answer we've ever had.
Yeah. And I'm like, I am in.
Hey,
2 of my favorite places.
Yeah, Jill Smokeler on Facebook or Instagram. She's got issues.com. I have a landing page up that has a newsletter link. So any of those options. Social media, I really have to get myself back on. It's not something that comes naturally to me, but I'm going to force myself out there.
Yeah, we hear you.
Necessary beast.
Every week we're like, we need to learn how to do an Instagram story. we need to learn how to do TikTok.
We were going to practice TikTok over the weekend,
and
then I ended up out of town. But
do we need to do that? Is that something that we need to be on?
I think so.
You know what?
Really?
No. Here's the deal. I was just listening to the #MWriting podcast, and now I gotta look at the podcast that they recommended. Oh, I got too many things up here now. Oh shoot! What Dan Blank, is that his name? Dan Blank. Oh dang. Okay, well, we will put the link to Dan Blank's. I cannot remember exactly what it is, but basically, it's talking about building platform, and one of the
they didn't think TikTok was necessary.
One of the most recent episodes I was just listening to is like, to have better impacts, do less. It's like, just pick the one where your audience is and that you feel the most comfortable with. And then really because, we do a lot of different stuff. And that's why for Instagram, like, we don't know how to do a reel to save our lives. But if you were just like, I'm all in on Instagram, and then just spend your time really getting to know that. But I don't know.
Problem is I'm not all in on any of them.
I know.
Right. I hate them all universally.
Yeah. None of them are my strong suit. Like it's a conscious thing. Like I have to go do this. And if I don't keep it top of mind, then the days will go by that I don't do it.
And people talk about Pinterest. I'm like, is that Mars? I don't know. That feels like it's a whole nother universe to me.
I just can't with Pinterest.
No, that never works for me at all.
Okay. No. Well, people know how to find you. Sign up for the newsletter. So then as soon as you are up and running, you'll, I'm assuming, blast everybody. And
if I can figure out how to send the email, I shall do so.
You ran the biggest parenting site in the world.
Do you know how many brain cells you can dissipate in 4 years? Like, I feel like all of my technology knowledge is just, and frankly, like the technology, I was never so good at it. There were so many times I brought the site down by like thinking I could code and thinking I could tinker around and do things. So that hasn't changed.
Oh, it scares me.
Don't get me started. I like to be like, 15 years ago, I used to run digital marketing for Apple. Like, and Disney.
When it was so different.
I like to think, that was before social media existed. It was like, oh, here's your 468 by 60 ad. Okay. But yes, times have changed. We've changed. But yes, I know, Missy, we need to get you off to your booster. Not too, we always run late, but less late than usual. Yeah. But so we got our Look, Listen, Learn segment. So for anybody who this is your first time listening, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. The Look, Listen, Learn segment is just an opportunity for each of us to share some of the things that we've either been watching and reading, listening to, and Missy is frozen. So anybody who's watching this on YouTube, she's not broken. Oh, there she is. Well, she moved.
She's a little broken, but that's not in the same way.
But yes. So, let's see. Where did I leave? Or we've been watching, listening to, or learning. So learning can be anything from a class you're taking to some beauty product that has changed your life. So we don't usually like to put our guests in the hot seat first, just in case Missy's Wi-Fi decides to completely collapse. Let's start with you, Missy, and just in case you're
That's a good idea, and hope I get through it. I'm going to talk really fast. I can't talk really fast. Okay. So my read, I'm reading The Silent Patient. This is just the dust jacket, but The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And I'm almost finished with it. It's really good. It's about a woman who commits a crime. She's in an institution and she has decided to not speak. And the process of her psychotherapist figuring out what's going on. So it's a little bit of a mystery, and
she doesn't speak at all. That's my trigger.
Is it?
It is, because I used to do that when my parents were getting divorced, and I think they took me to therapy one time, and I was like, if I don't talk, I don't have to do anything here. And now whenever my kids, like if they're having a hard time, whatever, I'm like, just tell me what's going on. And I seriously will just like, I know this game you're playing.
I invented this game.
So, okay. So
I don't know if you should read this then. I don't know. But,
I don't know, but it sounds really good.
Speak for years.
Ooh.
And it's, at first I was like, I don't know. Like, do I want to read a book where one of the characters is completely silent? But
she does
very
think,
well
I
done.
assume, right?
Yeah. And we're not seeing it from her perspective at all. So, and then there's journal entries of hers. So you do hear from her through journal entries, but
wow.
I do recommend that one. I kind of put off reading it because I wasn't sure, but I really liked it. And then my look is, we, in the middle of Omicron, decided to go to a comedy show. We already had our tickets. We've had them for a long time. It was a masked, vaxxed venue, although there were some people not following that rule. But for the most part, it was a very well-behaved crowd. And we saw Tom Papa, who years and years ago, he did like a redo of the Newlywed Show, which is where we discovered them. It's a long time ago. And he's very funny. He talks a lot about marriage and family and being in your 50s. Well, he says over 40, but he's in his 50s, and dating. And he just kind of talks about life as a person in your 50s. And he's hilarious. So that was super fun to go. And he has a Netflix special out. So if you want to watch him, he's on Netflix.
I'm so glad you went.
I'm so glad we went. I mean, I'm still pretty sure we got COVID there. We don't have it yet, but we're going to get COVID somewhere. And we decided, with the help of Suzanne and I are in a text group. And I was like, what do I do? Like, this is crazy. We're going to a comedy show. Austin had just hit stage 5. And the decision that after we all talked about it, was like, we're all going to get it somewhere. So we might as well get it while laughing our butts off. And then just be like, well, that's where I got it. I had a great time.
Instead of, I got it at the HEB.
Right. Because
you're like the DMV.
Right. Right. You're going to get it somewhere. So that was the decision we made, even though my sergeant safety that I live with, he had to be a little bit pushed into that decision. But it was so fun. So I recommend Tom Papa. I think he's hilarious. And then my learn is, I'm really learning that it's okay to live in a mess. That I have a hard time. I want to start a project and finish a project, so there's no mess, but I can't. I don't have time to start and finish, especially the project I've dreamed up, which is like reuse of a couple rooms, moving everything, cleaning stuff out. I'm not a stuff keeper. I clean stuff out pretty regularly, but still life happens.
Yes.
And to repurpose these rooms is going to mean cleaning out more than normal. And I can't do it all at once. I can't even do it in a day. So I have stuff kind of everywhere, as I mentioned at the top of the show. And I'm just having to daily work on myself. Like, it's okay. This is not a failure. This is progress. And sometimes progress is messy.
Yes. Well, I have like a curtain of every color in every room as I'm trying to decide which color curtains I want. And it'll probably be that way for about 3 months. So I get you.
Yeah.
We've been living in this
Just takes
house for
time.
what, a year and a half, and we're still like,
That's the joy of nobody coming over. You
yes,
don't have to worry.
exactly. No one has to see it.
Yeah, no one has to know. If I hadn't just confessed it, no one would ever know.
Yes. Now
You
we
look
need
very
pictures.
orderly from here.
Your one shelf is great.
Exactly.
It's just because you can't see that things are stacked on top of that bed, but that's okay.
All right. Jill, have you been look, listen, learning anything?
I have been. So I got sucked into this show, Mrs. Wilson. Have you heard of it?
No.
I feel very worldly because it's on PBS. So I feel
well,
like
no
I deserve
wonder.
like a big pat on the shoulder for that. But I watched it on Amazon, but still it originated on like either the BBC or PBS, but it's with Ruth Wilson, who was in The Affair.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
love her.
yeah, she's great. And it's a true story of her grandmother. And I think it's in the 40s, who was married and discovered after her husband's death that he had this entire other life that she had no idea about. And it's just watching it unfold. And Ruth Wilson plays her grandmother in it, which is just so interesting to see her telling this like crazy wild story about, you know, her family. So that was not a show that was in my typical romantic comedy genre, but I really liked it.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
It's
it
really
does.
interesting. It's really interesting. And listening to, I I got really caught up a couple of weeks ago when she was on SNL, with Taylor Swift's re-recording of her albums. And I'm still into the All Too Well, the new version, like the 10-minute version.
So good.
It's so good. And I listen to it all the time. And I swear, I feel like I'm being broken up with like all over again by someone. And it's like devastating. And it puts me in like this funk. And I'm so sad about it, but I keep doing it to myself. I just love it. And someone the other day was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just really sad about Taylor Swift."
Taylor Swift keeps breaking up with me.
Right. It's really hard on me. And then what else? Reading. I'm actually reading, which I'm sure will appeal to zero people listening to this or watching this. It's a book on the history of seashells, because seashells are like when I said about being creative and like my passions, my favorite thing in the world to do is walk on the beach picking up shells. And so reading this book about like just where they come from, and like the fact that the Shell oil company was like originally founded by this like lover of seashells and this lover of nature who would be horrified to find out what it's become. Just a random book that's giving me random tidbits to mention here and there.
Well, I have a random tangent off of that is a book called The Shell Collector by Hugh Howey, which I think I was like
You've talked about it before.
I was an advanced reader of it once.
Yeah.
I don't remember why. Hugh Howey wrote a series called Wool. I don't know. There's a whole story. It's how I met Jen Mann, talking about our mutual love at a Blog U. Remember back in Blog U conference?
I do.
Talking about Hugh Howey. And I believe that it got optioned for a movie like 5 years ago. And it's just finally getting turned into some type of like continuing series, like a Netflix series or Hulu series or something, which is good because it's not something you can squash into a movie. So it's, it's kind of one of those things. It was probably heartbreaking 5 years ago when he's like, it got optioned for a movie and nothing ever happened of it. And then, the option didn't exist back then to have something that's ongoing and continuous. And so it probably was a good thing, blessing and curse. So anyway, but Hugh Howey, he also did a kid's book called Misty. It was a little cute illustrated book. And then he also did this Shell Collector, which, gosh, I read it so long ago. I wrote a post about it because I had to do a review as this advanced reader of it. But it is about people who are really into shells. So you should.
Right. I will have
to read that.
And there's kind of a romance angle in there. I have to remember all that. Yeah. And then he wrote another book called Sand, where people used to dive into the sand and you had to learn how to hold your breath for a really long time to go. Yeah. He's really sci-fi.
Incredibly unpleasant.
It is.
Like,
oh no, so's Wool. I get like claustrophobia every time I read one of his books. For some reason, for him, I'll do it. So check it out.
I will.
Let's see. What have I been learning? Mine are not as sophisticated. Encanto, which is the sweet little new animated movie. Is that a Disney one? I think that's a Disney one.
I think it is.
And the music's by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So really great music. But my favorite part of the movie is there has been a viral photo afterwards of this woman showing her son, her 3-year-old son, Kenzo, who looks so much like the character Antonio from the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just so special. It's this idea that representation matters and that, diverse voices matter. And just, she has these pictures. She's realizing as he's watching the movie, he keeps looking back at her like, is that me? Like, how did you get me on the TV? Like, kind of thing. And she's catching, just feeling this, oh my gosh, he sees himself so much that he literally thinks it's himself. Like, how did I I
So
get this
cute.
movie. I don't remember feeling this. But so it's just super sweet. And I just love
is
all
so
these
sweet.
new movies that just have much more, representative voices and representative, in that case, faces and the way that people look and are portrayed.
Yes.
And even, I am not an underrepresented audience by any means, but
Where are the white women?
no,
Where
yeah,
are
there's
we?
just not
We
enough
never hear
of-
from them.
But no, I'm going somewhere with this. There were so many curly haired characters. The main character had curly hair, and
Mhm.
as I'm straightened haired today, but as a natural curly girl, you don't see a lot of main characters who are representative with like these crazy curls all
Yeah.
over. And so I felt it in my own little way just by the texture of the
Yeah.
hair. So I can't even imagine how 3-year-old little Kenzo felt
Oh,
seeing
it's
his
very
face look
sweet.
back at him in the movie. So that was just amazing. And then what was my learn? I don't know. It's kind of a learn. Everybody's doing that 10-year challenge where they do like a picture of
Mhm.
themselves from 10 years ago
I saw a
compared
bunch
to
this morning.
today and whatever.
Oh God, that would be so depressing. I don't want to do that.
I know. Well, there's that. But I actually went back in my photo roll to be like, oh, okay, whatever. Let's go look. And I'm like, I've got just tons and tons of pictures, and they're all of the kids or dogs or who knows what.
Right.
And gosh, was that even before a lot of social media, right? So there wasn't even a picture of food.
Yeah.
Like it was just pictures, family pictures and kind of stuff. I don't have any pictures of me to do the 10-year challenge with because no one takes a picture of me. Like no one takes a
You take
picture of
that.
me. And so, it
Makes
wasn't
me
until
old.
like 4 or 5 years later that I even started blogging or whatever. And then you start doing all kinds of selfies or whatever to put up on social media.
Right.
But the 10-year challenge, literally the challenge was just even trying to find a picture of me. And then I was just like, no, I'm not even going to play into this game because
Yeah,
because
I'm
it's just
choosing
frustrating.
just not even to explore this avenue at all.
No. So instead, I literally just started watching videos of the kids with the kids that they had never seen before from
Oh, I
their
love that.
childhood. And so we had more
Did
fun
they
doing
love
that.
it?
We seriously spent about 2 days like, come in here, you got to see this. Oh, it was so fun. It was really fun, especially, and hopefully, I don't think my son listens to the podcast, but my son is 12, daughter's 16, and he really just, I don't want to say he worships her because that's not, he just really admires her and looks to her as like,
That's
the
very
ideal person.
sweet.
It's very sweet. And he still does it. And he's mentioned to me a few times, like, I really miss the times where, I used to hang out with Zoe more and we'd spend more time together and whatever.
Aw.
And I was like, and part of me in my mom brain was like, you guys never hung out together. Like you guys like that's sweet that you have like this nostalgia for something that never happened, but okay. But as I was going through these videos, I watching him even like as a 2-year-old, like if they were dancing, he would look to her to see like, oh, her arm's doing this, and then he would start doing that. Or when she would go sit down, he would look, and then he would go and sit down. And it was just like,
I
but
love it.
but as a mom in the moment, I was just like, oh, I'm just trying to kill some time with my kids videotaping them. But as I'm watching it now from more of like this scientific overview, I'm like, it's amazing how much the little ones really do look up to their older siblings and mirror them and like try to look for like, am what I'm doing, is it right? Am I dancing right? Am I,
Totally.
should we be sitting now or should we be dancing?
Yeah.
Should I have my hand up or not?
Right.
And it's just
Oh,
so sweet.
so
And it reminded me
cute.
that they actually
It's
did
really
spend a lot of time
precious.
together and it was really sweet. And so, yeah. And I was also having a few moments thinking of like, I don't know, now that my kids are teenagers, I'm like, did I do a great job? Like, did I do enough or
Right.
whatever? And granted, I was
Okay.
probably being my best self while I was narrating those videos or whatever. But it's nice to be like, no, like I really was, I was engaged and we were doing fun stuff and they were hanging out and
Yeah.
I could just tell by looking at like the atmosphere of like what the house looked like back then. I was like, we were having
Yeah.
fun. They were having
Yeah.
fun.
Toys all over the floor.
Yes, it was.
Mm.
It was a home for children, and they were having fun. And
Yes.
so, yes,
Yeah, I
it was
kind of
good.
miss that now. That everything is portable. Their entire lives are in like a little box this big. I kind of miss the
Right?
toys everywhere.
I
Yeah.
know. It's
I
nice for
know.
space wise. But no, so that is my 10-year challenge to people. Instead of going and looking at a picture of yourself and trying to see if you look good or bad compared to what you did, like screw that. Do your 10-year challenge of first of all, just knowing that make someone take a picture of you. So 10 years from now, if you're looking back, there's some evidence that you existed. And also the 10-year challenge of maybe go back and if you had some videos or something like that, or something that you thought that maybe you weren't doing enough of, I bet there is some evidence out there that you were doing an amazing job. So
I love that.
That was my learning this week.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, this was so much fun. This went too fast.
Way too
Did
fast.
go
I feel
by
like we
very
just
fast.
started.
Ah, darn it. Okay. Well, luckily, you're only like a month out, surely, from your podcast, and then we'll be able to hear from you in our earbuds all the time.
I hope so.
Yes, but until then, it was so nice getting to catch up with you and hear what you've been up to and what you're going to be doing.
It was so fun seeing you guys, and thank you for the practice. It was so fun.
Yes, and now you make sure that your pop guard and your microphone are in working order.
Exactly. Exactly. I actually successfully set up the audio and the visual. So yay.
Yay. And yeah, if you need any, I don't even want to say advice. I don't know that we're advanced enough to give advice, but I can regurgitate the advice that people gave me advice when we started.
More than I have. Perfect.
Yes. So yeah, just let us know if you have any questions along the way. We're happy to help you.
Thank you.
We're really excited to hear it when it's ready.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's so good to see you. And yeah, I guess Missy, you gotta go get your booster.
I gotta go get my kids boosted.
Oh, your kids booster. That's right. My son is eligible on Monday, and Wednesday we are in. Like that was the earliest we could get. I'm like, I don't care. You're going. Boom.
Yep.
Oh, all right.
Well, yay science.
Yes. Yay science.
Goodness.
Get your shots.
Yes.
Wear your mask. Wave it at someone with a stroller today. Those
That's
are
right. Those are our takeaways.
All right. So good talking to you. Have a good day.
Bye,
you guys too.
All right.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and ... podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show today. And if you know someone else who could benefit from today's episode, be sure to share it with them. Also, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in the show notes over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the AND spelled out. In between shows, you can find us at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. You can find links to the group, all of our socials, and our questions and comments section over at our website, momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.